welcome to Express Your Truth class number 4. This class is going to look at alliteration, assonance, and dissonance. Sound in the poem, the way the words come together, is a very important facet of any poem that you could write. Alliteration is when a series of words begin with the same letter, like the darkness dampens the distance. Assonance is when there's a similar sound within the word, maybe the same vowel sound or the ending sound in a word, and you repeat those sounds within different words over and over again, and it really helps to give your poem that sense of flow and that sense of lyricism, that cadence that makes the poem different than just regular speech. And dissonance is when you're talking about maybe a harsh subject, maybe war or famine or racism, and you don't want the words to sound really great together. Dissonance has a harsher quality that conveys a message that is not pleasant, that is important, but isn't that like a happy or joyous feeling. So to get started, let's look at some famous examples of the use of sound in poems. So this is Rain by Emmanuel de Pasquale. He wrote it in 1943. Like a drummer's brush, the rain hushes the surface of tin porches. Oh, that's beautiful. And you can see the use of S. Drummers, brush, hush, surface, porches. So the use of all those words together just combines to actually sound like the falling rain, right? It's very lovely. For a second example, we're just going to look at the first stanza of Noon of the Sunbather by Marge Piercy. The sun struts over the asphalt world, arching his gaudy plumes till the streets smoke and the city sweats oil under his metal feet. A woman nude on a rooftop lifts her arms. So this is all talking about the heat of the sun, and it's actually personifying the sun, making the sun into like a person. Right? But he's strutting over the asphalt. So there's the S sound again, arching his gaudy plumes until the streets smoke. So again, there's that S sound. It's like you can actually see the smoke of the streets as the sun just like blasts its heat down on the surface of the earth. Again, it's lovely. It's a beautiful image that is really conveyed strongly through the crafting of the words. In a third example, I want you to really listen to the words that our resident poet, Enrique Argueta, what he has used. This is an amazing poem, very powerful, and just the sound of the words together, right? The assonance and the dissonance in the meaning that he's trying to convey is very, very powerful. So just listen, close your eyes and listen to the beautiful words that Enrique has put together.
The skeleton is built with the muscle and the flesh, howling up at the moon, kissed by the sunshine. Eyes internalized, comprehending my position. Nutrition for my spirit to fill my stomach. Heartbeats drumming, circulating rivers of blood throughout the body. It's a crazy ass thing walking amongst human beings. Every single ball of energy passing is so unique. Upbringings molding and shaping on how we see. It's the vision at its finest with weaponry to the teeth. Each word that we speak is like a spoke on a wheel. Rolling through the battlefield, you can get your cap peeled over disagreements on faith and beliefs. Confidence without clarity, get your conscience buried.
So let's start with an exercise to help us get our brains into this framework of thinking of alliterations and using assonance and dissonance to make sentences, to make little short mini poems. So something we can do is to take any text, magazines, books, anything that you have that has words in it. You're going to flip the page open and just put your finger on a sentence and read the sentence and make that sentence into an alliteration. Again, these are not going to be great poems, but it gets our brain thinking about ways we can use these structures, these formats to make our poems more interesting. For example, here I have a copy of Health Magazine. All right, so let's open a page and see what happens. All right. Now, I'm just doing this live with you guys. I have not got this in advance, so we'll just sort of see what we run into. All right, here we go. I used that plus a can of white beans and some random vegetables I had at home to whip up a quick weekend dinner. All right, let's use that to make an alliteration. All right, so we're going to look at the sentence that we made from that magazine sentence. I used white beans and random vegetables to whip up a weekend dinner. So it looks like one of the letters we have the most of is W. So let's use W as our letter to try and make everything match. All right, so I used white beans, and instead of random vegetables, I thought of a random vegetable, which is watercress. I used white beans and watercress to whip up our weekend chow. Now, I looked up dinner in the thesaurus, and there is no dinner word that starts with W, but chow has a W in it, right? And so it brings all the W's together. So that is a way to make an alliteration out of a random sentence out of a magazine. Let's try another one. Let's see. One woman was convinced that roaches from outer space were taking over the world. If a roach appeared, it was an advanced scout. If none appeared, it proved how fiendishly clever the invading roaches were. Oh, that's an interesting sentence. So we'll boil that idea down into, she is convinced cockroaches are plotting to take over the world. Now, plotting does not start with C. So let's look that up in our thesaurus. And we can see the word plot, devise, concoct. So we have some C words there to choose from, right? Oh, we can do conspiracy, right? Those are some good words that we have there. She is convinced that cockroaches are conspiring to take over the, let's say, country. And now we need a word for take over, right? So let's look up in our thesaurus again. So we have overthrow, overwhelm. Look, we have crush. Crush is a great C word, so let's use that one. And we have a very interesting alliteration that I would never have thought of without using this exercise. She is convinced cockroaches are conspiring to crush the country. See? Interesting. Now that we've practiced making an alliteration or assonance and dissonance with random words out of a magazine or a book, let's try it with our own personal items of interest. So what we're going to do now is go to the list of topics that we have in our poetry journal. If you don't have a list of topics or you can't think of anything to write about, you may want to watch class 1 and do some brainstorming so that you'll have an idea for your alliteration today. So here is my list of power words. I think I'm going to use graciousness and maybe the sandbox. So let's use, I'm going to try and write 2 poems with those 2 ideas as my central idea. All right, so my graciousness poem, my prominent letter was M. So let's go ahead and read the poem. Her kindness was what I remembered most. It is uncommon and meant more than money, prominence, or means. So you can see there's a lot of repeating M's. Remembered, most, more, means, prominence, money. So they don't. The words don't all have to start with your emphasis letter, but they have to. There has to be a prominence of that letter in your work. Here is my second poem, Sandcastles. Wetness sticks the grains in shapes, secured by sunlight and sure hands. A castle, a fortress, a place of escape, if only I were petite enough to fit. Now you could use the word small, because small would go with the S's in the poem, but because it goes outside of your alliteration, for this puts a stronger emphasis on this word. And petite also means not only just small, but also, kind of cute and tiny. And so I just don't fit inside my sandcastle. So this is my sandcastle alliteration assonance poem. Word crafting, word play, assonance, consonance, just the cadence of bringing words together. It's a very important part of writing poetry. And so I would encourage you during your 10 minutes of writing time every time for this week to really look at bringing words together that have similar sounds or dissimilar sounds depending on your topic. And you're going to get some really, really interesting results. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week for class number 5.